American Natividad at the University of Toronto, where behind me a single light shines brightly into the night sky. This light is joined by 13 others at universities across the country, from the University of British Columbia all the way to Dalhousie, and all of this in remembrance of 14 young women engineering students whose lives were cut violently short in an anti-feminist attack in Montreal 3 decades ago. It is a somber anniversary marking the worst massacre in Canadian history. A somber moment at City Hall as the names of 14 young women are read aloud, a red rose laid for each of them. They were students, hopeful for a future in engineering, murdered in what has only recently been recognized as an anti-feminist and misogynist attack. On December 6, 1989, a gunman entered an engineering class at Ecole Polytechnique. He separated the men from the women and opened fire on the latter. In addition to the 14 murdered, multiple others were injured before the gunman shot himself, his suicide note stating he was targeting feminists.
Even one life loss is clearly too many. 30 years later, we're still grappling to find words to define what happened in that tragic moment and evening in Montreal, December 6.
The 30-year anniversary of the Polytechnique massacre is a cause for reflection on how far Canadians have come in addressing violence against women and how much work still needs to be done. The firearm used in the attack is still legal to own in Canada.
The Ruger Mini 14, the gun that was used in the Montreal massacre, was never prohibited. The AR-15, which is clearly a military weapon, was never prohibited. We're hoping that this government will finally take action more than 20 years after they promised.
The City of Toronto has recently adopted a gender equity strategy. We are building out a gender equity unit in the budget process, as well as trying to devise all sorts of tools to eliminate discrimination and barriers and access for opportunities for women in the city.
Let us now take a moment of silence to remember and honor these 14 women.
This afternoon at the University of Toronto's Hart House, a similar ceremony. 14 white roses tied to a bench among a bed of red. Marisa Sterling was a third-year engineering student when news of the attack broke. Did you feel it more deeply as an engineering student?
Absolutely, I did. When you hear that you're attacked because of your gender, it's very confusing. It really makes me feel so happy now that other women haven't had to suffer that pain themselves because this has not recurred, and that we're bringing so much more of a better environment for women going forward.
Even though there has been some progress, the stats on gender-based violence remain disturbing. Coming up, we take a look at the numbers and we speak to an expert who weighs in on what more can be done to support women. American Natividad at the University of Toronto. To my left, a beam of light shines high into the sky. This beam joins lights at 13 universities across the country to remember 14 young women engineering students who were murdered at Montreal's Ecole Polytechnique 3 decades ago. Now, since then, much progress has been made on addressing gender-based violence, but the numbers still paint an alarming picture and a long road ahead to ending the violence altogether. A study released today from a group specializing in femicide at the University of Guelph reports that a woman or girl is killed every 3 days in Canada, with a total of 118 to date in 2019. The report also revealed that women aged 24 to 54 are overrepresented in the number of killings, but so too are seniors, a change from 2018. Educator and sexual violence support worker Farah Khan says there are concrete steps that need to be taken now in order to end the violence.
We need real housing solutions in Ontario, especially in Toronto, where women, if they do need to leave, that they can have a safe place to go. We need to fully fund violence against women and women's organizations. What we see is that oftentimes women's organizations wait with bated breath when there's an election, because oftentimes violence against women and women's issues are seen as a partisan issue, and it's a non-partisan issue. It should be, everybody should be involved in this, and everyone should say that change is needed.
Now, coming up a little later on in the show, we'll take you to Montreal and show you how all 14 women were honored today.